नमस्कार, आप देख रहे हैं द राइट न्यूज और मैं हूं रोहित भट्ट। द राइट कन्वर्सेशन में हमारे साथ बात करने के लिए आज हमारे साथ डॉक्टर विजय सजावल जी हैं, जो कि ऑथर हैं बुक के द कश्मीर क्रॉनिकल्स 1986 और 2023 तक। ये इन्होंने बुक लिखी है और आज इसी के ऊपर हम इसी विषय के बारे में बात करेंगे। सबसे पहले आपका स्वागत है द राइट न्यूज में।
नमस्कार, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
विजय जी, सबसे पहले हम जानना चाहेंगे कि हु इंस्पायर्स यू, आपने क्या सोच के ये किताब लिखी है, आप किसके बारे में थोड़ा हमें जरूर बताइए।
मैं अगेन आपके रीडर्स को धन्यवाद देता हूँ। इंस्पिरेशन तो पहली इंस्पिरेशन तो फैमिली से आती है, स्पेशली माय चिल्ड्रन, माय ग्रैंड चिल्ड्रन। मगर मैं श्योर नहीं था कि किताब का कुछ वैल्यू होगा, क्योंकि आई हैव नेवर कंसिडर्ड माई सेल्फ टू बी ए पायनियर ऑफ एनी काइंड। मैंने कहा किताबें तो हर हफ्ते आती हैं, हर महीने निकलती हैं, साल निकलते हैं कश्मीर के बारे में, मैं क्या लिख सकता हूँ नया। मगर दो तीन चीज़ें हो गई जिससे मुझे इनकरेजमेंट मिल गई। एक तो इनकरेजमेंट मिल गई क्वाइट फ्रैंकली टीआरएन से, चूँकि आपके यहाँ मैंने पहला प्रोग्राम 2022 में किया था, अक्टूबर के अराउंड दैट टाइम, और उसका फीडबैक जो था वो बड़ा ज़बरदस्त निकला। आपको भी मालूम है, आप ही ने मुझे एक्चुअली बताया उसके बारे में। फिर उसके बाद हमने 2-3 और प्रोग्राम किए टीआरएन पर, वो भी अच्छी तरह से रिसीव हो गए। मगर दैट वाज वन साइड। द अदर साइड इज कि मैंने एक आर्टिकल लिखा था, जिस आर्टिकल को जो आर्टिकल एक्चुअली इस किताब में भी है, बट वाज रिटन इन अ डिफरेंट बुक। और उसका जो पब्लिशर था उस किताब में, उसमें मैंने एक चैप्टर लिखा था। उस किताब के पब्लिशर ने मुझे कांटेक्ट किया, उन्होंने कहा कि भाई देखिए, उस किताब में तो बेस्ट चैप्टर तो आप ही का है, और मैं आपके आपने कुछ और लिखा है क्या? मैंने कहा हाँ, मैंने बहुत कुछ लिखा। तो मैंने कहा, उसने कहा कि मैं आपके लिए किताब बनाऊंगा, मैं आपको पब्लिश करूंगा। और ये हैं पब्लिशर सैबरन क्विल, जो हैं कर्नल अजय रैना जी, जो काफ़ी किताबों को पब्लिश करते हैं, खुद भी ऑथर हैं काफ़ी किताबों के। और उन्होंने एक्चुअली एनकरेज की और मुझे थोड़ा धक्का दे दिया कि कुछ डिसिप्लिन लगाओ और इस किताब को प्रिपेयर करो। और उसने मुझे हेल्प भी किया। उसने इन द सेंस उसने रेकमेंड किया एक एडिटर को जो मेरे साथ वो काम करेगी, और उसने उसके साथ मैंने मतलब 6 महीने के करीब इंटरेक्शन कर ली। उसने फिर उसके हिसाब से उसने इंक्लूड कर लिया। एक्चुअली उसकी कंट्रीब्यूशन ये है, और मैं ये सच बताऊंगा, मुझे नहीं ख्याल था कि मैं टीआरएन के इंटरव्यू का कुछ पार्ट किताब में रखूंगा, क्योंकि वो सब वर्बल थे, वो सब वीडियोस थे। शी टुक द टाइम, मिस अनीता लमाई, कि उसने उसको सबको शी पुट इट ऑन टेक्स्ट, शी हर्ड एंड हर्ड ओवर अगेन सो दैट शी कुड राइट द क्वेश्चंस एंड आंसर्स जो आपने और राकेश जी ने मुझे पूछे होंगे, and so that is also included in the book. So a lot of people encouraged it, and at the end I think I'm very happy with the product that has come, because it is not your usual कश्मीरी बुक और कश्मीर पंडित बुक। इसमें आपको नहीं मिलेगा कि कश्मीरी पंडित को क्या हुआ, कब निकले, मेरी फैमिली कब निकली, वो तो फैक्ट्स हैं। मगर ये पॉलिसी है, ये बुक ऑन पॉलिसी है। पॉलिसी कैसे क्रिएट की जाती है, पॉलिसी कैसे डिस्कस की जाती है, पॉलिसी कैसे फॉर्मुलेट करती है एडिशनल पॉलिसीज को, जिसकी इम्पैक्ट कश्मीर में है हुआ, इंडिया में हुआ, पाकिस्तान में हुआ, कश्मीरी मुस्लिम्स को हुआ, कश्मीरी पंडित्स को हुआ। ये दिस बुक इज रिफ्लेक्शन ऑन दोज इश्यूज।
जी, आपने कहा कि यू सेज दैट योर बुक डिवेल्स ऑन स्ट्रेटेजिक मैटर्स डीलिंग विद इंडियन डोमेस्टिक पॉलिसीज एंड ग्लोबल जियोपॉलिटिकल रिलेटेड टू कश्मीर। व्हाट डज दैट मीन?
दैट मीन्स कि जो भी तो मतलब ऐसा है ना कि लोग समझते हैं कि आपको आप इंटरनेट पर न्यूज़ सुनते हैं, या ट्विटर या व्हाट्सएप पर न्यूज़ सुनते हैं, तो आपको सब पता चल जाता है। एक्चुअली पॉलिसी जो है वो अब वैसे नहीं चलती हैं। पॉलिसी तो गवर्नमेंट, यू हैव टू गो थ्रू द गवर्नमेंट documents. You have to talk to the appropriate people within the government, within the administration, within journalists who are monitoring these kind of developments, and then you have to look at the global aspects के क्या हैं उसके. So that from that point of view, ये this becomes a, this, then you understand what the policy is. Because if you don't know what the policy and you react only, आप सिर्फ रिएक्ट करेंगे जो न्यूज़ आती है, then आपको कभी समझ में नहीं आएगी. You will, आप हर वक्त वो फ्रेज है एक, ये you will see the trees but you will miss the forest. ये क्योंकि आपको बड़ी पिक्चर नहीं आएगी समझ में जब तक आपको पॉलिसी नहीं आएगी. सो ये है, ये उसके बारे में है. ये आपको मैं बता दूं, फॉर एग्जांपल कश्मीर में 2 पैराडाइम शिफ्ट्स हो गए from the point of view of कश्मीरी पंडित्स. अगर मैं, ये किताब कश्मीरी पंडित फोकस नहीं है, इसमें ब्रॉडर इश्यूज हैं, बट अगर आप कश्मीरी पंडित फोकस करेंगे तो 2 पैराडाइम इश्यूज हैं जो जबरदस्त इम्पैक्ट करते हैं. एक तो था 20 फरवरी 1986, जिस दिन के अनंतनाग डिस्ट्रिक्ट में, अनंतनाग के विलेजेस में, वनपोश एंड अदर्स, जहाँ वो राइट्स हुए. That was really a paradigm shift. उससे impact वही हुआ बाद में. That was really a forerunner to 1989, 1990. अगर लोग वो समझ नहीं सकते हैं, that becomes a problem. They don't understand. On the other hand, मैंने काफी को देखा है वो 1987 का स्ट्रेस करते हैं, क्योंकि वो from the other side, from the adversaries, they talk about this 1987 elections, जो कि the claim is that rigged. So from their point of view, it's 1987, but actually the reality is things started happening after 1986, and it was very clear. So what happened in 1987 really happened because of the events that took place in 1986. But you will not see many people talking about 1986, and that's one important paradigm shift. The other one actually is 2016, July 2016, when Burhan Wani was assassinated. I mean, people don't understand, even Kashmiri Pandits don't understand, that has a major impact on how the policies subsequently shaped in Kashmir that are there. So we are talking about events that are sorely missed by the people who just look at the sort of superficial news and don't understand how the policies evolve and how the policies change and what works and behind the scenes that creates the आज की news है, that creates that news today. So that is the purpose of this book, and so it will be, I would be first to admit, it's not for everybody. It's right. Only for people who not just are interested in policy but want to learn about policy, learn about how. और ये हमारे लोगों में ये है कि अरे भाई मुझे तो सब मालूम है. I know everything. I see all the social media. I know everything. But policy is a different thing.
जी विजय जी, हम ये जानना चाहेंगे कि इसका नाम आपने जो रखा है उसके पीछे कोई वजह है कि सेम यही आपने नाम चुना है बुक का? और दूसरा 1986 और 2000 के बीच में ही क्यों आपने इसको लिमिटेड किया हुआ है? ये मैं पहले दूसरा सवाल लेता हूँ. 86 को तो 1986 और 2023 मेरे लिए, for my personal thing, is when I engaged in this this political analysis. Just ये मेरा active period था. In other words, basically I have been now retired for a few years, but I decided that at the end of last year, I will be less active from there on. I'm getting to the age, and 1986 is really when I started seriously involved in the activities. And of course, the first motivator was those events in Anantnag district. That's when I got, because you have to understand, I'm sure आपके readers जो हैं वो सब या कुछ जानते हैं. मैं ग्राउंड जीरो श्रीनगर से, मैं was born in श्रीनगर में, ग्राउंड जीरो से करीब 9-10,000 मील दूर हूँ. मैं करीब 15,000 किलोमीटर दूर हूँ. So लोग कह सकते हैं कि भाई ये 15,000 किलोमीटर दूर है तो इसको क्या पता है. बट मेरी इन्वॉल्वमेंट 86 से हुई है, क्योंकि 86 में. विजय जी, यहाँ पे मैं आपको ये जरूर रोकना चाहूंगा, क्योंकि ये सवाल बहुत बार टीआरएन पे भी बोला गया कि आप बहुत दूर हैं और आप कश्मीर के मामले में बोलते हैं, कश्मीर के बारे में बात करते हैं. इसका जरूर जवाब बहुत जरूरी है सुनना कि आपकी इन्वॉल्वमेंट कब से और कितनी इन्वॉल्वमेंट है कश्मीर के मामले में.
Well, you see, आपको you have to know me in person to understand कि what passion dictates me. जब मैं किसी चीज में इन्वॉल्व हो जाता हूँ, and I become quote unquote like a Ramoon. I then don't give it up. I look at all sides. I talk to everybody. Money is not a criterion. I will do whatever it takes. Now, इसमें मुझे of course माता का भी मदद मिल गई. But main thing is कि मेरी start मैंने सीखा मैंने actually I have in Parmeshwari also, even though I was not there, I was here. मैं उसमें भी कुछ involvement थी, but that was primarily with my own community. उसमें मैं बाहर नहीं हुआ. But जब ये इवेंट हो गया 86 में, तो मैंने और इसकी न्यूज़ तो कहीं इसकी न्यूज़ तो हमने डिस्कस किया, इसकी न्यूज़ तो कहीं निकली नहीं. बेसिकली द न्यूज़ वाज सप्रेस्ड इन इंडिया क्या कश्मीरी पंडित्स को क्या हुआ. और ऑफ कोर्स इन द is and there is a discussion of it in the book. I don't want to take all that away, but point is, it was very clear कि इसमें सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने भी डर्टी रोल किया, इसमें स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने भी रोल किया, स्टेट गवर्नर ने डर्टी रोल किया, सब ने इस प्रेस न्यूज़ की. तो मैंने उस वक्त लिखा, आई सर आई लेट मी राइट आउट ऑफ वाइल्ड क्राई, लेट मी राइट टू न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स कि जरा ये क्या हो रहा है, आप हमारी बात की सुन लीजिए. But I was clear that I didn't want my family to be hurt there, so I actually used the name V Kumar. I didn't even say Dr. Vijay Sazawal. I used V Kumar from my address, which was at that time my address in Pennsylvania. And lo and behold, actually I get a call back from New York Times saying, yeah, what are you talking about? You're talking about Hindus being humiliated, or Hindus being basically being suppressed or violently suppressed by Hindu majority India. How is that possible? I said, well, you send your journalist to this to the valley. उसका नाम Stephen Weisner था उन दिनों, Weisman था, and he sent there. So I have the exchange between New York Times and myself, and that is in the book, by the way. So when that happened, so then I realized I can make a difference. And on उसके side में ही, my wife on the other side was also telling me that you actually negotiate on behalf of United States government with other governments in the Far East, in Russia, in those days was Soviet Union, in Europe, things like that. You have the capability because you deal with the diplomats from various countries and all that, and so how the system works with respect to many countries. All you have to do is now you have to use the same faculties to invest in India and Kashmir. So that's how I started. And of course, when you look at the spectrum, my spectrum is, I know literally, multiple journalists in the valley. I speak any day, 5 or 6 of them. I know multiple, social activists from various NGOs. I know multiple people. Now you have to understand, मेरी expertise जो है वो सिर्फ value focused है. ये मैं नहीं क्लेम कर सकता हूँ कि मैं जानता हूँ जम्मू में क्या हो रहा, दिल्ली में क्या हो रहा, बंगलोर में क्या हो रहा. नहीं, मेरी skill, or of course in that process the number one reason I got there was because of Kashmiri Pandits in the valley. उसके बारे में मैंने काफी लिखा है, उसके बारे में मैंने discussion किया. I mean, मेरे articles have come in all the newspapers of Kashmir. Daily, Rising Kashmir, Greater Kashmir, Kashmir Observer, Brighter, you name it. I have my articles, Kashmir Images, my articles have come. So I am involved in it. जो ये बैठकर जम्मू या दिल्ली में बैठते हैं क्योंकि हम जी टनल के इस पास हैं तो हमें ज़्यादा मालूम है बनिस्बत कि ये आदमी जो कि 15,000 किलोमीटर दूर है, then he has no idea, or she has no idea of what it takes to be involved in such a it's a massive investment of time and effort. फिर मैंने कहा आपको शारिका जी ने भी मुझे हेल्प किया, because I got involved by government in the Indo-US nuclear agreement. उस agreement में I used to make many unannounced visits to Delhi. और दिल्ली से I would basically pick up the plane and head to Srinagar. These were all unannounced visits. I used to get, because I was a foreign citizen coming, I mean, of course, Kashmiri coming back to the thing. So they would give me actually, police cover, security cover. It started with the actually Rashtra Rifles at one time, first time. Then it was down to lower grade until to JK Police at the end, until to the last visit when nobody was there, because things had improved so much. And I would visit there. I would visit, Kashmir. But don't know actually how many associations there were in Kashmir who were actually doing active. There was, Kashmir Welfare Society. Then there was Kashmir Welfare Society Kashmir, and now of course there is KPSS, Sanjay Tikku. But there were various organizations they were involved in politically, and I used to really be impressed कि ये भी अभी भी तो भी जब इनकी population कुछ है ही नहीं, still they are getting around and doing something. Of course, people in Jammu and Delhi and elsewhere didn't know anything about these people. They had no idea that anybody is there actually. वो तो समझते थे ये सब मुसलमान बन गए. But they are, so my book actually is, Roji, is actually dedicated to the 808 families that never left the valley.
Okay.
And people who get this book will see that on the cover itself. This book is actually dedicated to those people, and I feel a privilege and honor when I go there and meet those people, because they are the true custodians of our culture and heritage. Of course, now it is growing up. I'm glad with the PM package and all that, but let's digressing. So, but I hope I have answered your question.
जी जी विजय जी, हाउ इज द बुक लेड आउट? आई मीन, कितने पेजेस है, कितने चैप्टर है, और चैप्टर इसमें क्या है, मतलब कि हमारे दर्शकों
को सो मैं एक चीज और बताना चाहता हूँ. 86-20 देखिए, ये क्या रेलेवेंस ये भी है कि 86 में मैं इन्वॉल्व हो गया तो उसी वक्त हो गया, और 2023 में फाइनली द सुप्रीम कोर्ट रैटिफाइड द आर्टिकल 370 एब्रोगेशन. सो ये पीरियड भी ऐसा ही है जो जब मेरी इन्वॉल्वमेंट और हिस्टोरिकल इम्पोर्टेंस के डेट्स हैं, दे मैच. So I feel rather underwhelmed in that sense that I feel overwhelmed that all these things kind of work together. Now coming to the question you asked me, this book has about 500 some pages. Okay. And as a friend of mine actually who's reading it in Delhi, senior citizen, he used to be. Actually, I will not name him, but I will name his father, Shri Lumbudar Zutshi, and he said, "Bhai, I love the book, but it is too heavy," and he's a frail, senior citizen. I said my problem is I had to choose between whether I want to give people a little bit broader text, this font, so that it will be pleasing to the eye or not. So in other words, the book could have been shrunk. But because I did convince the publisher that he should use a font that people will be able to be comfortable with. So the book is over 500 pages. In terms of the layout of the book, the chapters, there's a chapter which deals with essentially the international aspects on the Kashmir issue. How did it become an issue? Now again, जो आपने कहा ना, title क्या है? Title neoteric analysis. Neoteric means you look at things with a fresh eye. आपको ये मेरी किताब में आपको वही नहीं मिलेगा कि नेहरू जी ने यूएन किया, नेहरू जी ने, because we have now documents, declassified documents from the British Library, from the old Commonwealth Office. वो 50 साल 1947 के बाद 1997 में वो रिलीज हो गए. Now we know actually what the whole story is. So, but people keep on, but their political motivations keep on. Everybody, Nehru took the case to UN. Nehru did not take. Let me tell you, when you read this book, you'll find out with proof Nehru was not the one that was responsible for taking it to the UN. Now, of course, India did make it to the UN, put the case in UN, but that was not because Nehruji was sitting in his office and decided that was the way to do. So it's a very complex story. And that's in the book. Similarly, so neoteric gives you a fresh look at what neoteric tells you. Ahmad Shah Gilani was actually marked. He was the man in charge from Pakistan on who lives and who dies in Kashmir. So he was the one who they had to get an okay before actually anybody would be marked for death in the valley. I'm talking about political leaders, but his same man actually. Was very, very generous towards Kashmiri Pandits. Kashmiri Pandits don't know that. He was actually the person who saved Kashmiri Pandits all these years. So if you are saying, why did Ajay Panditaji all of a sudden, was targeted for killing in 2020, when in fact for the previous 16 years there had been no killing of Kashmiri Pandits in the valley, which could have happened easily because there was nobody defending them. And you will see that explanation in this book. So this is a book with a fresh look. It's not based on any preconceived notions. It's not a pro BJP or pro Congress or pro. It for example finds the work that was the trip that was made by Shri Vajpayee ji to Kashmir, where he said Jamhuriyat and all that stuff. That was one of the worst things he could have done for the Kashmiri Pandits. I can tell you that. So this book does not look at any bias. It basically looks on facts. It looks on how the policies were created. His trip, which was very sad because he made his trip only 10 days after Nadi had happened, and he didn't mention a single thing about the massacre of Kashmiri Pandits in Mari. That sent clear message to the Kashmiri Muslims that these guys are nobody cares for these guys. And this is your BJP prime minister speaking there. So I won't get in that because that's too much detail right now. But what I'm saying is that is what neotaric means. It means looking at things in the real pros, not because you are from Congress or you're from BJP. It's looking at things and the way that had happened. Now, the chapters on international deal with the events that took place in the U.S. Congress, in the UNHRC, in British Parliament, in which I participated, and some of those discussions that took place. So that's one. The second chapter deals with basically the regional geopolitics between India and Pakistan and how it impacted the Kashmir issue. And one of the features in this one is actually the Musharraf Vajpayee ji encounter in Agra. I mean, you have to the level of detail. I will challenge anybody if they have found anything like that in public. I think only last year there was a book that came out after, obviously after that event took place, which was in 2001. 23 years later, and it gives the details which I gave 23 years earlier in the book. Then the next chapter is on what's happening with the valley and the valley politics, what I call the street politics. And here you'll see some of the deep dives. One of the dives being what happened in Shupian in 2008, what happened in Amarnath in 2008 was the Amarnath, and 2009 was the Shupian. And these are not collections that you make from looking at internet and collecting data. You will actually see in the kind of information in those articles that you will not have seen or read anywhere else. These are deep dives, what we call in America deep dives, analysis. My background is in analysis, and the reader will be pleasantly surprised to see that depth. That's the third chapter. The fourth chapter deals with Kashmiri Pandits, and as I said, the focus is primarily on Kashmiri Pandits of the Valley. But I also have shown that there were occasions when we tried to get some international recognition for Kashmiri Pandits, but the Kashmiri Pandits, unfortunately, in Jammu, didn't understand the value that effort we had made, and quite frankly didn't follow up on that. So so that's also for the people to look at and then decide what could or should not have been done as a result of those kind of activities. And finally, there's a chapter on documents that are there, which people can sort of read and see what all was done, again, 15,000 kilometers away.
Okay, so हम जानना चाहेंगे, what are the highlights of the section which has focused on KPs?
Well, as I said, first one is that there's the first time we're talking about putting information about the Valley people, the 808 families that never left. there's details about that, and the kind of hardships they faced at the beginning, where people will be surprised. No, they were actually eating sometimes meals at gurdwaras and these langars set up by Sufis. It was that bad, because they were all scattered and all that, and the communication was not that good. But as fortunately, we're talking about, there was also transformation going on in the society as more and more communication media like phones became available, became cheap. So every family, no, today everybody family has a phone, but I would even argue that many of the families now have cars also. But the communication has improved quite a bit, and so, but there's that element there. Then, as I said, there was this. We arranged for a United Nations through U.S. To arrange a visit to the camps for the IDP status, and I begged those people there to call me, and well, couldn't call because I was the one who was calling, but I said, give me the information through an email so that I can brief you how to prepare for it. I'm not going to name the names of the leaders at that time, and they're all deceased. But they didn't. They thought, what can this guy tell us that we don't know? And that gentleman went back and then talked to me later and said, you guys don't qualify for it because of the following reasons. And he gave a lot of reasons, and those are in the book. The other one was that we arranged for a meeting of. It's hard to believe right now, but we actually arranged a meeting for the American ambassador, Frank Wisner, to visit Jammu. Well, he was visiting Jammu because he was going to be giving a lecture at Jammu University. But we arranged to have him meet with the Kashmiri Pandit community for breakfast. And unfortunately, again, they wouldn't bother to keep me plugged in so I could prepare them, because one of the questions that they had to do was they had to analyze what he said at Jammu University the previous day, when the breakfast was held on the subsequent day. And they didn't prepare. They didn't even know he had made a speech at Jammu University. I mean, they were all figuring out within themselves, what should we say. And so when I called one of the gentlemen who is still alive, actually, and I said, so what did you guys? How are you guys? He said, well, we're going to tell him, what does India plan to do with us? That will be our main question. What is India planning to do with us? I said, what is an American ambassador going to tell you about what India is planning to do with us? But that's the level of political immaturity that exists in our community, which our community finds very difficult to accept, because we are very proud people and we think we know it all, and unfortunately that doesn't work out.
Okay, so what are the highlights of the section that deals with the international aspect of Kashmir issue?
Well, I'll tell you, people don't realize it, but Kashmiri Pandits have done one and only, which we arranged, one and only a press conference inside, not outside, inside the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. And I don't think people understand that. That was one of the big highlights. We at that time, Farooq was the chief minister, and we basically targeted us. I mean, we targeted him for the ills of what has happened to our community, and he was very much discouraged. Vajpayee was at that time the foreign minister, and he tells Vajpayee, this group looks to me like a CIA job, hatcher job, and they are here to basically stick it to India. And Vajpayee tells him, no, I know a couple of these people, so it cannot be that. But that was that, But then we have also, spoken in the different as I said, in the British Parliament, in the U.S. Congress. One of the interesting things is that and I discussed this, I think, in one of your shows, that actually both Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh, hard to believe it today, given where their man in question is, that is Yasin Malik, both sent Yasin Malik to America. God alone knows, how that stupidity could have happened, but you can't blame it on one party or the other, because both parties did it. in two times he came here, and it was basically our job to counter him, of course, with the civility that is required in the American politics. And in this book, you will see that interaction that I had with Yasin Malik at two different times when he visited United States, and how that went through.
जी जी what are highlights of the section that deals with the valley political dominated by the majority community?
Well, you see, as I told you, the main ones are the central is the Amarnath, uh, um, uh, you know, uh, problem that was under Mufti regime that took place, and Azad time, and quite honestly, that is dissected in full. How they really created that problem, how did they created the problem, and didn't exist, and similar one is a year later. It's all in July. Somehow July is a month that things happen in the valley. Maybe it's because of the weather. July later, it is the Shupian, when two girls basically lost their lives because they drowned, and Kashmiri Muslims wouldn't accept it. They have a certain. See, the rule was the All Party Hurriyat's conference would write the narrative of what happened, both in case of the um, Shupian, as well as Amarnath ji, and then every newspaper had to cover it that way. And I'll tell you, on the Shipyard, I lost I had encouraged a female journalist in the valley, a young woman with a really very positive attitude. She had a newspaper, and she published my story, my analysis, which is in this book. And she was basically forced to abandon that paper. She was told that they will burn her building if she publishes anymore. And it weighs very heavily on my mind that and fortunately, that young lady, from journalist, now she's actually working at Merck in the mass communication department as a professor in the Kashmir University. But that was the nature. And similarly, when there was a Million Man March, a journalist by the name of Ahmed Ali Fayaz, he wrote the story. He said, yeah, there were a lot of people, and I counted, probably there were about 30,000, 40,000 people, which is quite a bit anyway. But that ran contrary to the Million Man March that Hurriyat had, Jilani Saab had put out. So as a result, they almost lynched him. They bought tires outside his home. They put on the fire. I was involved in that because we got then the committee for just protection of journalists, CPJ, in New York to intervene and things like that. So we all know that. We all know that Hurriyat used to dictate it. But the fact of the matter is, all that is discussed in there. What is discussed in there is the deal that was between essentially the Indian government, in 1996. I'm talking about after the election. The deal between Indian
Right.
government, Abdullah, and Hurriyat, not at Hurriyat at that time, but Jamaat Islami. How that affected the subsequent actions that took place, and then the the relationship between Mufti government and Jilani Saab personally, which also which everything blew up, as I said, when Burhan Warani was killed, and all of these people basically were allowed to come out on the streets, and there were lots of deaths, and people just went berserk. And you have a BJP government, both partner in the state, and you have a BJP government at the center. Modi ji's first term, 2000. This is 2014. I'm sorry, 2016, and so that was a paradigm shift, because that is when actually Modi government decided we have to change the system. It's not, you just can't shovel money in day out, and that will give you the results, because these guys are only encouraged by that kind of thing. So all that is in this book.
राइट तो जानना चाहेंगे कि इज देयर एनी सरप्राइजेस फॉर रीडर्स? अभी जो आपने बोला नहीं, इसके बगैर भी कुछ ऐसे सरप्राइजेस है बुक में रीडर्स के लिए?
I pretty much covered all of it, but I'll tell you, one of the interesting things they will find out is that how Hurriyat was created. I don't think It's an article that actually I wrote in 1997 that was subsequently published by Delhi Journal. क्या इसका नाम है? I'm trying to remember. Outlook magazine published it a few years later, and you'll see how the U.S. Deep state, how the U.S. intelligence organization started that organization. But of course, only to be disappointed that they didn't come, they were not of the caliber that they could be. In other countries, quite honestly, they did this in Indonesia and other places, and you have different. They did it in Sudan. You have different countries that have been created because of those deep state actors. But our Kashmiri Muslim brethren didn't have the capacity to take the advantage. One can say it applies to Kashmiris in general. So that would be something that I think they will find out. They will also
Right.
they will be also interested to know that and I talked about this in our last program, that the UPA, when the UPA government was there was a National Defense Council, which was the council of which covered basically, because they didn't have national security advisor, and Mrs. Sonia Gandhi was the chair of that, and there's an exchange with her in this book also, where she basically acknowledged having read what I had passed on. So they will see. I met with Dr. Manmohan Singh in his office, and there's some description about that. And then the data about the valley. I think the depth of data people don't realize is going to surprise you. As I said, because it's an analytical, it's an analysis book. It's not going to cover the things like what happened to us and that kind of thing. It's going to cover essentially the things that define the policy the way it happened. So people are wondering, why did something happen like this? Why didn't the government do like that? I think some of those, I can't say all of the answers will be there, but some of the answers will be found in that book.
ओके विजय जी, आपने बात की है 86 से 2023 तक अपनी किताब में, उसके बारे में बात की है. हम जानना चाहेंगे आपसे कि 2024 की अगर हम बात करें. हाँ, हम चाहते हैं कि आप दर्शकों को एक बार बुक दिखाएं.
हाँ, ये
बिल्कुल.
ये है किताब.
500 पेजेस की किताब.
हाँ,
राइट. 500 पेजेस.
500 pages, and it is available on Amazon.in.
राइट.
Indian Amazon पर available है.
Right.
And I can tell you that people who have received it, of course, the first person who received it was our Honorable LG Manoj Naji,
जी.
and subsequently a number of people have received the book. Some people who I didn't even know have sent comments like, we have the highest ranking Kashmiri Pandit General. I don't know if anybody knows of that, Major General Rana.
Right.
Major General Rana actually complimented on the contents of this book. And the other thing that I want to say about this book is, I don't get any royalties because I have donated 100% of the royalties to Cockney Foundation, and Cockney Foundation is run by retired Navy Commander Sanjay Kaulji, and
Yes.
it's a charitable registered organization in India. It works with the underprivileged children in the valley and outside. So if anybody does buy the book, it will be that they will be helping actually the KP community cause, since your audience is KPs. So that would be a nice thing. Let me show you the Amazon page. I don't know if you can see that there.
Yes. Let me open.
Yeah, this is Amazon page, and it's available. And in fact, it says right now, if anybody orders it today, it will be delivered by 7th July. So I as I said, keep that in mind, that it's for a good cause, and I think people who have read it so far feel that there's one comment I got was 20% is something I knew, 40-50% is kind of new, but another remaining 30% is totally out of never expected it.
नो रेस्पेक्ट।
That kind of reaction I'm getting.
जी जी। विजय जी, आखिर में आपसे जानना चाहेंगे कि आपने 2023 तक बात की, अब हम जानना चाहेंगे कि फ्यूचर में, भविष्य में, क्योंकि कश्मीर को आपने इतनी नजदीकी से देखा है, कश्मीर के इश्यूज को लेके, कश्मीरी पंडितों के इश्यूज को लेके, क्या लगता है आपको कि कश्मीरी पंडित अब वापस जा सकते हैं और
See,
कब होगी वापसी?
ये तो this is ये तो बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स इशू है। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अगेन मैं इसको पॉलिसी साइड से पता डिस्कस करूंगा। मुझे मालूम है, आई नो द इमोशंस ऑफ द पीपल। मैं बिफोर आई से एनीथिंग लेट मी से कि मुझे मालूम है इमोशंस है, ये बहुत इमोटिव इशू है, इसमें काफ़ी पैशन है लोगों को। आज ही मैंने देखा पंडिता जी जम्मू में हॉर्न लगा के गाड़ी में निकल रहे थे, सबको बोल रहे थे कि आप पंडितों जागो जागो, क्या कर रहे हो, कुछ नहीं कर रहे हो, ये गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं कर रही है आपके लिए। सो आई नो इट्स अ इमोटिव इशू, बट पॉलिसी साइड से मैं आपको डिस्कस करूंगा, क्योंकि एट द एंड ऑफ द डे इट विल बी ओनली अगर लोग अंडरस्टैंड करें कि पॉलिसी क्या है, तो तभी वो एडवांटेज ले सकते हैं कि प्रोसेस फॉरवर्ड
राइट,
में क्या होनी चाहिए। अगर
बिल्कुल
जब
बिल्कुल।
पॉलिसी नहीं समझ जाएगी, क्योंकि आपको कुछ लोगों को शायद थोड़ी थोड़ी मोड़ी पॉलिसी पता है, उनके 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 उनको अच्छी नहीं लगती है। सी ये दो इश्यूज हैं। आपको पॉलिसी अच्छी लगे या ना लगे, यू हैव अ राइट टू डू दैट। मगर अगर आप कम्युनिटी बिलीव करते हैं, कम्युनिटी को सपोर्ट करते हैं, तो कहते हैं अच्छा जी जो ही पॉलिसी है उसी उस पॉलिसी में कैसे हम आगे निकल सकते हैं। हालांकि ये पॉलिसी मे बी परफेक्ट नहीं है, ये मे बी आइडियल नहीं है, मे बी ये हमारी तरफ से ये एंटी हमारी है, बट अगर पॉलिसी है तो वो क्या है, और अगर है उसको हम कैसे एडवांटेज में ले सकते हैं। सो दैट इज द इशू। नाउ मैं ये भी कहूँगा, आफ्टर आई गिव यू कपल ऑफ मिनट्स ऑन दैट सब्जेक्ट, मैं ये भी
राइट,
कहूँगा कि बीजेपी आज इससे रीअसेस कर रही है वो सब, क्योंकि ऐसा है ना कि इलेक्शन चेंज द डायनामिक्स। आज अगर आप 2000 अगर मेरे को 2024 अगर इंक्लूड करना होता, तो मैं ये भी कह सकता था कि पैराडाइम शिफ्ट दूसरा बदल गया है बिकॉज ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट्री इलेक्शन। Because what has happened is basically we have seen National Conference is the main party. You cannot ignore it. You cannot go around it. Public is, मैंने मुस्लिम से बात की, मुझे मुस्लिम ओवरवेलमिंगली दो किस्म के मिलते हैं। एक तो कहता है भाई जो शेख साहब ने किया, which is taking away the land from डोगराज and पंडित्स, और हमको दिया, हमको जिंदगी दी, वो हम कभी भूलेंगे नहीं। दैट
भूलेंगे
इज
नहीं।
वो दैट इज एस्ड इन आवर ब्लड। क्योंकि वो बेचारे पंडितों की जमीन ले ली, बट वो उसके लिए हम उनके शुक्रगुजार रहेंगे ऑल द टाइम, क्योंकि वो भी डेवलपमेंट हो, वो भी डेवलपमेंट, मगर वो नहीं हो सकता। दूसरी तरफ से ये भी है, मुसलमान है वो जो कह रहे हैं कि गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी जो है वो डगमगाती है, कोई इधर है कभी उधर है, कभी कौन से बात करती है कभी उनसे। सो हमको नहीं लगता जो प्रो इंडिया, जो सॉलिड प्रो इंडिया फैक्शन है, वो सब दे आर ऑल स्टिल हाइडिंग। निकले थे बाहर, they had come out in big numbers, जबकि you know after post 2019 they were more vocal, but after election many of them have gone back because they suddenly realized that the central government is incapable of changing that kind of. So that's a paradigm shift now. So my sense is the government is probably thinking differently today than it was thinking 3 months back, 4 months back. 4 months back, their plan for Kashmiri Pandits was very clear. And they have said that to many Kashmiri Pandits, both within their party, जिनको मिले हैं, और प्राइवेटली जो कश्मीरी पंडित उनसे मिले हैं, मतलब प्राइमरली अमित शाह जी, जो कि इज द होम मिनिस्टर एंड पॉलिसी मेकर। और वो पॉलिसी ये है कि हमारी गवर्नमेंट फर्स्ट ये है कि जो मनमोहन सिंह जी ने किया, वो मनमोहन सिंह गवर्नमेंट ने जो किया वो अब नहीं रिपीट हो सकता। क्योंकि लोगों को, मैंने आपके फर्स्ट प्रोग्राम में कहा, ये जो लोग सुनना नहीं चाहते हैं तो इग्नोर करें। ये पॉलिसी थी ही नहीं जैसे वो इवेंचुअली इवॉल्व हो गई। दिस पॉलिसी वाज मेंट प्राइमरली फॉर दोज पीपल जो कि वो विलेजेस में रहते थे, जो कि जमींदारी करते थे, जो कि उनकी शॉपकीपर्स थी। बट एनीवे इट इवॉल्व्ड ओवर द टाइम, बट इन दैट एवोल्यूशन they had to see, Indian law, India is a nation of laws, and ये आप किसी कम्युनिटी को नहीं आगे ले सकते हैं, क्योंकि उनके साथ बुचरी हो गई, क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान में बुचरी तो चलती रहती है. There are literally hundreds of aborigine tribes which are dying every year because nobody cares about them. तो उसमें पार्लियामेंट का लेना पड़ा, उसमें उसमें एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का लेना पड़ा, उसमें क्या कहते हैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट का लेना पड़ा. उसमें बिग रोल वाज प्लेड बाय, जो मैंने आपको नाम उस वक्त भी दिया, मिस सुषमा चौधरी, who was from the planning commission, who was put in charge of the thing. But credit goes to Manmohan Singh ji. But he created that package, carried it through, and it was implemented. It was implemented. JK, once it reached the implementation stage, which was with the JK government, उन्होंने कुछ बदमाशी की, but it was there. The problem is you cannot repeat that package anymore. So अगर कोई कहता है कि मुझे और गवर्नमेंट जॉब चाहिए, वो नहीं मिलेंगे. अगर मिलेंगे वो तो they will come under the general quota, जो भी which are open to everybody.
So आपका कहना है कि अभी जो पैकेज में 6000 पोस्टें मिली हैं, उसके अलावा कोई पोस्ट नहीं मिल सकती,
उसके बाद कोई पोस्ट नहीं मिलेगी. This is it, because this was an exception which was carried through. ये तभी जब when 2014 में जब नई गवर्नमेंट आ गई, they saw when they got all the files, they found out this is it. The only thing they did was that I give it credit to Modi ji. Modi ji said, भैया ये पैकेज ओरिजिनली बनाई गई थी फॉर द लोवेस्ट स्ट्राटा ऑफ कश्मीरी पंडित. ये तो आपने तो इनको इंजीनियर्स वगैरह वगैरह ये सब लगाए, वो तो थे ही नहीं उस लिस्ट में. So then they opened up the 2000 remaining posts for L1 and L2 and all those categories, जो कि lowest range पर हैं, grade 4 पर हैं. So that was done because of but they couldn't change it. They understood the dimension. So अगर मैं आज कहूँ किसी कश्मीरी पंडित को हमें जॉब दे दो, हमें ये करो, हम ओवर मैच्योर, overage is a dirty word to use, just like migrant. It's a dirty word to use. आप बोलिए I am an entrepreneuring Kashmiri. Okay, so that is one dimension. So you have to understand the policy cannot change because there was a policy made after a long effort. It took many years between the time when Sushma Chaudhary organization came together and eventually when the SRO 412 was issued. It took 4 or 5 years, and so that is one side of it. The other side of it, you have to understand this government of Modi ji is not a socialist government. It believes in the creation of jobs through enterprise, industry, that sort of thing. That's how India is becoming. You cannot become the 4th largest economy in the world by saying I have the largest government jobs in the world. That will not work. The economy cannot survive. A survival is dependent on people actually becoming much more involved in their own employment techniques. So what happened was that government has placed in front of Kashmiri Pandits a number of proposals that they can do. And they have given them facilities like skill management and all that. And there have been आपको भी मालूम होगा, there have been so many these seminars and discussions in various transit camps like Jagti and all that, but there has not been any kind of an interest. And the other thing is even on the schemes of loans and that kind of thing. I mean we know that Kashmiri Pandits are comfortable in the government job space, but I hate to say it, we have to look beyond that space. That is what we are. Not overage. We are entrepreneurial Kashmiri Pandits. I mean, Kashmiri Pandits as a group in India are probably in the first 5 richest communities in India. There's no question about it, as much as there is disparity there. I mean, that's not a unique thing for us. There are poor Parsis also. There are poor Gujaratis also. There are, but we are. The problem is we don't have that community spirit to think in terms of, जैसे गुजराती वो एक मोटल बनाता है तो उसके लिए पैसा, he gets cash under, without a bank loan, word of the mouth from his other Gujarati friends and all that. I mean, there is a way communities actually develop and grow and make everybody economically viable. That concept.
डॉक्टर साहब, यहाँ पे मैं आपको एक चीज बोलना चाहूंगा कि मैं मुंबई इंडस्ट्री में अपना एक एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करना चाहूँगा के साथ भी और आपके साथ भी. मैं मुंबई इंडस्ट्री में था और मुंबई इंडस्ट्री में यूपी बिहार से जो लोग आते थे वो अपने साथ साथ पूरे कबीले को लाते थे, गांव के गांव आते थे इंडस्ट्री में, वो सबको अपने साथ वहां पे करते थे. लेकिन हमारे कम्युनिटी में ये एक ड्रॉबैक है। अगर हम कहीं जाएंगे, हम दूसरे को वो रास्ता नहीं दिखाएंगे, क्या वजह है इसकी?
ये भाई, अगर मुझे जवाब पता होता मैं तो आज करोड़पति हो गया होता। ये तो हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट है। एंड अगर
राइट,
ये मैंने कहा हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट ये भी है कि अगर हम 7 एक्सोडस की बात करें, नन ऑफ देम पीपल रियली वेंट बैक,
राइट,
बिकॉज सो ये आज जो हो रहा है वो नया नहीं है, यही यही हर वक्त हुआ है। इट्स अ वन वे माइग्रेशन आउट, देयर इज नो बैक, देयर इज नो यू टर्न, and but we have now the advantage of knowing why that U-turn didn't happen before, because it's not happening right now and it won't happen right now. I think the core of the group is now in the valley. I think the core of the group now has over 10,000 people in the valley. And I think
yes,
government has, by the way, government has also told these same people that I will tell you, were Mr. Sinha and all that I've met, they do have a plan for, essentially they're not going to give free land, but they do have some ideas for the government employees who are already there. They are looking for some subsidized land for them so that they can make their own permanent housing there, because they do want these people to stay. Actually, they don't want them to leave. And the second is, there are some people may fit the category of really poor people in from the camps in Jagti, Okru, and others, that they may actually get a free land back in the valley, because that's part of the Prime Minister's Yojana that is being discussed right now, where a lot of poor people will actually get the land in the JKUT, and so some of these people may actually get some of their land. Then the other thing is, there's serious work going on building, the cooperatives, the housing cooperatives. There's a lot of effort being put underneath. And I can also tell you, individually, सब चुप करके बोल रहे हैं, individually, uh, from what is that called, from Gupkar to Ganderbal, there are Kashmiri Pandits building homes.
yes,
My guess is probably between 50 and 80 people, 50 and 80 families, but there are people building homes. These are all self-driven initiatives. So I think nobody can beat Kashmiri Pandit in self-driven initiatives. But the problem is, we don't have that community, spirit, that we can say, that we ought to find out how we can carry everybody along. But I tell you, in all fairness, the biggest challenge is even not that. The biggest challenge is understanding how do we take the advantage of the government policy that exists right now. And the government policy is very good. There is a rehabilitation, because you can't go there without means of living and whatnot. So all of that has to be factored in. The infrastructure, all those things have to be factored in. Government has a plan, but the plan does not give you free land, and it does not give you government jobs. So go and understand what the system is. Now, having said all this, I'm just telling you, because of the elections, it is possible. It is possible. Government may have to do something more, because the whole idea previously was that we are creating the conditions that are getting better and better so Kashmiri Pandits can come in. Now we are finding out, the more it's the back to the future, so to say. The more we think of the future, the less it looks like it, more it looks like the old thing with NC and all that. So government may actually be thinking right now of perhaps that policy of accommodation, adjustment, that may or may not work, given the fact that that the sentiment really has not changed in more people than we thought it was going to change. So government may not admit it publicly, but I think this government is, from my perspective, uh, I have no doubt that this is the most pro KP government in Delhi. But the question now is, how does this election play up? Will they wait till the state assembly election before they really
right,
nail down a new policy? But I would be not. I'll be surprised if they are not thinking in terms of fine tuning the Kashmiri Pandit policy, given the fact that the previous program that they had laid out for the last 3-4 years essentially has not given them the results that they had hoped for. So
right,
I'm discussing it in policy terms. I'm not discussing
राइट।
it specifically to.
चलिए, डॉक्टर साहब, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका। आपको बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं द कश्मीर क्रॉनिकल्स के लिए। और हम उम्मीद करते हैं हमारे व्यूअर्स जितने भी हैं, जितने दर्शक हैं हमारे, मैं चाहता हूं फिर से एक बार आप दिखाएं बुक को। जी, तो हमारे दर्शक जो ये बुक देख रहे हैं, और अमेजोन पे ये अवेलेबल है, आप इसे लेके पढ़ सकते हैं, क्योंकि जो डॉक्टर साहब ने अभी हमारे साथ बात की, जितने फैक्ट्स इन्होंने इसमें बताए हैं, और बहुत सारे ऐसे मुद्दे भी हैं जो हमें अनसुने हैं, और क्या वजह है चीज़ों को लेके वो भी इसमें बताया गया है। तो उम्मीद करते हैं आप सब लोग इसे ज़रूर खरीदें अमेजोन पे, और खुद भी पढ़िए और बाकियों को भी प्रेरित करें इसे पढ़ने के लिए। और सबसे पहले मैं ही इसे अमेजोन से अभी इसके बाद ऑर्डर करने वाला हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे ये बुक चाहिए। जो हमारे यूथ हैं उनके लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है जानना 1986 से और 2023 के बीच में बहुत सारी चीज़ों के बारे में। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर साहब आपका द राइट न्यूज़ में आने के लिए।
थैंक यू,
थैंक यू
थैंक
सो
यू,
मच।
थैंक यू आपको और आपके ऑडियंस को। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू।